After being reborn. This time I avoided every encounter with Vincent one by one. When he privately changed my college application, I changed it to a business university in Guangzhou. When he used all his salary to rent a house for Chloe, I sold the house and kicked him out. When he felt pity for Chloe being all alone and gave her a child after a night of passion, I broke off the engagement with him. In my previous life, when I was in my 50s and lying in a hospital bed due to gastric cancer, my son, along with his family of 3, forced me to sign a divorce agreement. Anyway, you're going to die soon. Why don't you just let Dad and Chloe be together? Give me a complete family. Okay? Amanda, you've made up your mind this time. Right? This is a decision for a lifetime. You're applying to the Guangzhou University of Finance and Economics. Right? I nodded seriously at the teacher and solemnly handed in the college application form. You and your Vincent at home. It's really something. One came to change the application in the morning, and the other in the afternoon. Fortunately, having fulfilled my insertion, it was still within the final time limit. If it had been any later, it couldn't have been changed at all. I came out of the teacher's office, and the first huge stone in my heart finally dropped. After this afternoon, Vincent won't be able to change my college application anymore. In this lifetime, I won't marry him either. I also want to cut off all my connections with him completely. In my previous life, I got a good score in the college entrance examination, and I wanted to apply for a business major in a local university. But when the admission results came out, I realized that on the second day after filling out the application, Vincent, in the capacity of my fiancé, privately changed my application to a local normal university. I questioned him about why he did that. If you study at a normal college and become a teacher in the future, you'll have plenty of time and it'll be convenient for you to take care of the children and the family. What's wrong with that? What's the use of a girl studying business? At that time, I was young and blinded by the expected love, so I didn't argue with him any further. Soon I married him. But I had only studied for less than a year. Then I got pregnant, and the pregnancy reactions were severe. I took a half-year leave of absence from school to take care of the baby in my womb. After giving birth to the child, I studied while taking the child to set up a stall to earn money. Who knew that in the 3rd year, I got pregnant with a second child. I was pushing the cart on a downhill road and slipped and fell. I lost the baby. In order to take care of the family and the child, I dropped out of school. Due to my educational background, the quota that I could have used to teach in a primary school was also squeezed out. It was only many years later that I found out, when I was holding the child in one hand and coaxing it, and pushing the cart with the other hand, selling pancakes to earn money on rainy days. Vincent used all his salary to rent a house for Chloe, and to buy a refrigerator and jewelry for her. The primary school where I could have taught originally was also because Vincent used his connections to give the quota to Chloe. Later, Chloe took her daughter and went to a different place, and Vincent was also transferred to the north. My son went with them. They said they were going to buy a house in the north, so I sold the old house in Guangzhou City and sent the money to the father and son. I went to Guangzhou myself and started doing business. Later I found out that the house was bought for Chloe and her daughter to live in, and my son became more and more distant from me. Their family of 4 lived in the house bought with my money, being together and healthy. I never understood why he was so good to Chloe's daughter. It was not until I was 50 years old, lying in a hospital bed after a lifetime of hard work, that I knew that the child was Vincent's own. My son wrote to me again and again, asking me to divorce his father. He said that our family was no longer complete a long time ago, and why couldn't I just let Vincent be with Chloe and her daughter? Decades of hard work had made my body like a withered tree, plagued by diseases. I was lying in the hospital bed, looking at the family of 4 standing in front of me. Chloe was still young and beautiful. She had taken good care of herself over the years, and there were no traces of time on her face. Her daughter smiled at me and said, "Auntie, don't worry. My dad will be taken care of by my mom." My son said to me, "Mom. Anyway, hadn't so mind sigh. You're going to die soon. Just sign the divorce agreement. Let Dad and Aunt Xiao be together. And give me a complete family." Okay? No. Of course not. I looked at Vincent with hatred. This man had dragged me down for a lifetime, deceived me for a lifetime, and ruined my life. How could I be willing to let my enemies have their way at the last moment of my life? Even if I die and make you a widower, I won't let you marry another woman as a single man. It was a fact that he had an affair. Before marrying me, he had an improper relationship with Chloe and had a daughter, who was nearly a year older than my son. He had also exhausted my whole life. I wanted to drag them down with me. I spat out a mouthful of blood and closed my eyes unwillingly. Heaven has eyes. And I was reborn. I went back to the time before marrying Vincent, to the final moment of submitting the college application. Everything was still not too late. I asked the teacher to send my admission notice directly to my aunt's house in Guangzhou. I needed to deal with things here and also go to Guangzhou in advance. In my previous life, I didn't go there to do business until I was 40 years old, and the trade there was already booming. Now I'm going there 12 years earlier. That day, I can just catch the trend. When I got home, there was no one there. I went into my room and marked the day of my departure on the calendar. There were only 10 days left, so I need to deal with everything here within these 10 days. This house is 60 square meters in total, and it was my parents' house back then. After my father had an accident, my mother remarried and left the house to me. In my previous life, I got married and had children with Vincent here. He lived in my house, and I went out to set up stalls and do part-time jobs to earn money. He used his monthly salary to rent a house for Chloe and buy a refrigerator. Later, when we went to Beijing, he even instigated me to sell this house and used the money to buy a house for Chloe and the others in the north. In this lifetime, I won't give Vincent even a single yuan more. When having dinner, Vincent came back. I brought out the stir-fried tomatoes and eggs that I had cooked. Just then, let out a low sigh. He opened the door and came in. Why are we having this again today? I didn't even look at him. Meat is expensive, and we can't keep too much of it if we buy a lot. Then, let out a low sigh. I'll go to the vegetable market and buy some meat tomorrow. I'll buy less. Just enough for the two of us. I rolled my eyes and picked up the rice to eat. I didn't even bother to ask if he wanted to eat. Since Chloe came to Zhao City, I haven't seen him bring meat back. Many times. He took Chloe to a restaurant and came back after eating. Or he bought meat and went to Chloe's house to cook for her. Then he would tell me that he had gone to a colleague's house. I don't care about all these things anymore. Because there are only 10 days left. And after 10 days, I'll be completely free. Seeing that I only took out one set of chopsticks and a bowl, he pursed his lips. He went to the kitchen and took a bowl for himself. He started eating casually. I felt that he had something to say. Looking hesitant. I no longer cared about every little thing, every expression and action of his as I used to. Whenever we were together, it was always me chatting with him and sharing my daily life. I remembered every little thing about him in my heart. But he, on the other hand, had always been rather cold. In my previous life, I thought that it was because of his poor family background and he had such a withdrawn personality. It was not until I saw him in front of Chloe. The way he smiled like a dog craving for petting. Thinking of this, I felt a chill and sat a bit farther away from him. Seeing that I was almost done with my meal, he finally spoke. Amanda, your sister Chloe is in urgent need of money this month with my salary. I chewed the tomatoes in my mouth vigorously and nodded. And you won't buy the gold necklace you promised me? I'll buy it for you as soon as my salary comes next month. Of course. We have to buy our wedding gift. It's almost time to change seasons. And Chloe wants to buy a few more clothes. You know, she's different from us. She's loved beauty since she was a child. I slapped my chopsticks on the dining table with a snap sound. Stood up, picked up the dish plate, and went back to the kitchen, saying casually, fine. Vincent was holding an empty bowl and looking at the empty table. He stared at me in astonishment. He chased after me. It seemed that he didn't expect that I didn't mind at all. It's good that you're sensible. Chloe just moved here and doesn't know anyone. After we get married, we should take even better care of her. Sensible? Take even better care of her after getting married? Is he out of his mind? If it weren't for the fact that I don't want any more trouble before leaving, I would have wanted to smash the plate in my hand on his head. How could I have fallen for such a person in my previous life? In my previous life, I didn't know until I was old that what Vincent said to me was PUA and brainwashing. He wanted me to sacrifice myself unconditionally, as if I had no self, to fulfill that couple of scoundrels. Chloe was from a neighboring city. She and Vincent were college classmates. It was said that she was even the campus belle of their class. Her family was a key target during the Cultural Revolution. Her father died in prison, and then her family fell into decline. She became a fallen young lady. Once, this young lady saved a piece of braised pork and left it for the poor Vincent to eat. Since then, Chloe became the first love that Vincent looked up to in his heart. But why did Vincent have to drag my life into it when he could devote his whole life to Chloe? Not long after having dinner, I was in my room, packing my things. I heard a knock on the door, and then Vincent went to open it. Through the crack of the door, I heard Chloe's faint sobbing. "Vincent. I'm scared. Don't worry. I'm here." Then there was the sound of the door closing, and the two of them left. I looked at the calendar on the wall and remembered that the same thing happened on this day in my previous life. Vincent was called away and didn't come back all night. When he came back the next day, he was like a different person. Because Chloe was pregnant, and the child was his. I remembered the day of his birthday more than 2 months ago. I cooked a table full of his favorite dishes and prepared a pen as a gift for him. I waited from dusk until after 1 o'clock in the morning. He didn't come back. Then the next day, he explained to me that he had played cards at a friend's house and slept there directly. Since then, he had changed. On the one hand, he was very happy to have a child with Chloe. And on the other hand, he felt guilty towards me. So he started to treat me more and more coldly. At my bedside in my previous life, I asked him why he treated me like this. "Amanda, I love you. That's why I don't know how to face you, because I love you." I sneered in my heart. What love? He just wanted both sides. I didn't pay any more attention to him. Instead, I finished packing my things and went to bed. I had a good night's sleep. The next day, after I got up, I looked at the time on the calendar. There were still 9 days left. I happily cooked myself a bowl of noodles for breakfast. Just then, Vincent came back. He saw me cooking noodles. "Amanda, you're cooking noodles. Make a bowl for me too." I didn't even bother to pay attention to him. I fished out the noodles myself, sat down at the dining table and started eating. I casually asked, "Where did you go last night?" Vincent's eyes dodged a bit as he looked at me. He pursed his lips and said, "Last night, I was playing cards at a friend's place. I was afraid that coming back late would disturb you. So I slept there." I nodded casually, too lazy to expose his lie. He seemed to hesitate for a moment. But finally he spoke up. "Amanda, now that you've filled out your college application, I'll go and submit the marriage report today. Why are you in such a hurry?" I looked up at him, and he guiltily turned his head away. It was the same in my last life. Chloe was pregnant, and he felt guilty towards me. So, he wanted to marry me quickly, saying it was to make up for me. Huh. It's really disgusting. Grandpa's birthday is coming up. Let's set the date after celebrating his birthday. Okay. I almost forgot. Fortunately, hadn't felt my session. You mentioned it. I'll go back with you. In the end, he didn't go back with me. Because Chloe came and called him away again, saying that the sewer needed to be repaired. I was secretly glad. After finishing breakfast, I packed up. My first stop was the train station. I booked a train ticket to Guangzhou at 8:30 a.m. 9 days later. Then I bought a short distance ticket to my grandpa's house in Lincheng. There were a lot of people queuing at the train station. I didn't get the ticket until the afternoon. Then, I went back to meet the house bug that my teacher helped me find. At that time, there were no real estate agencies. If people wanted to rent or sell their houses, these house bugs had the most well-informed information. After posting the information about the house for rent, I set off for my grandpa's house. Grandpa has always doted on me since I was a child. In my last life, he didn't want me to get married so early. He thought I could just date Vincent for a while. But I didn't listen to him. I was so starved for love that I wanted to tie Vincent to my side. When Vincent said he wanted to get married, I naturally agreed. As a result, in the following decades, it wasn't that I didn't notice the clues between Vincent and Chloe. It was just that I was self-conscious. Later, I dropped out of school and set up a street stall. I didn't dare to face the truth. In my last life, I had a big quarrel with Grandpa. I also listened to Vincent's words and gradually had less and less contact with Grandpa until he passed away. I didn't even get to see him for the last time. I sat on the train and wiped away my tears. Fortunately, having fulfilled my this time everything will be different. The purpose of my return this time is to call off the engagement with Vincent. Come to think of it, Grandpa was the witness of this engagement. Grandpa and Vincent's grandpa were comrades in arms. It was said that Grandpa had saved Vincent's grandpa on the battlefield. When Vincent was in junior high school, his grandpa brought him to my house to pay a New Year's visit. Grandpa thought this young man was good-looking. Most importantly, he was good at studying and ambitious. When Vincent's grandpa was ill and knew that his days were numbered, he asked my grandpa to take care of Vincent. At that time, the two families decided on my engagement with Vincent. Vincent was indeed excellent. He didn't turn out badly. He was successfully admitted to university in the college entrance examination. Although he initially taught in a middle school, in my last life, he continued to study and was promoted all the way. He was transferred to be a university professor. Later, he even directly entered the education bureau and became the director. It's a pity that no matter how good he seemed on the outside, he was like a bamboo with a rotten core. It's not difficult to break off the engagement with him. Grandpa liked him, but he didn't support me getting married so early. If he knew that Vincent was having an improper relationship with other women, with Grandpa as the witness, it would be even easier to call off the engagement. In Grandpa's house, my little uncle and Aunt listened and quietly as I finished speaking. My aunt wanted to persuade me, Amanda, Vincent has a stable job and looks good. If you call off this engagement, there's no turning back. My little uncle's face was serious. Amanda, are you sure that Vincent really has an improper relationship with that woman? When I nodded solemnly, he cursed angrily. He really is a person whose true nature can't be judged by his appearance. Such a person doesn't deserve our Amanda. Grandpa picked up the teacup and took a sip of tea. It's better to call off the engagement. It's important for you to finish your studies first. I also told Grandpa's family about changing my college application. They all supported me. After all, my eldest uncle's family lived in Guangzhou. The process of calling off the engagement went smoothly. My little uncle invited some elders from the community, and those who were present at that time. There weren't many people left in Vincent's family either. With Grandpa as the witness, the two families broke off the engagement. Neighbors who didn't know the truth asked about it, and they all couldn't understand. Vincent was a sought-after person in everyone's eyes. He was handsome, a college student, had a stable job after graduation, and his parents were dead. They all thought that once I married him, I would live a fairy-like life. However, I couldn't tell them. In my previous life, I didn't experience a single day of that so-called fairy-like life. Not only did I lose my parents' house, but I also wasted my entire life. I worked like a servant for him and Chloe, and they still made me feel uncomfortable even until I died. After calling off the engagement, I stayed with Grandpa for 2 more days. After all, I spent too little time with him in my last life. And in a few days, I would be going to Guangzhou. Grandpa taught me how to play chess, and I went fishing with him in the suburbs. In my last life, I couldn't sit still at all. But in this life, I have already experienced the ups and downs of life. Instead, I think fishing is a very interesting thing. When we got back in the evening, Grandpa cooked his signature braised fish for me. I helped in the kitchen while playing with my 4-year-old nephew. 3 days later, I boarded the train back. When I went there, my hands were empty. When I came back, my little uncle gave me some local specialties. My aunt and Grandpa also gave me to read envelopes for the new semester. After getting on the train, I opened them and found that my aunt gave me 500 yuan, and grandpa gave me 1,000 yuan. There was a note inside. It said that I shouldn't be stingy with money, and should call home if I ran out of money. I touched the red envelopes in my hands, and felt my eyes getting wet. After coming back from Grandpa's house, there were only 4 days left. I had to deal with the things at home in these last few days. I inserted the key, but it wouldn't turn. I found that it was locked from me inside. I knocked hard, and to my surprise, it was Chloe who opened the door. Her originally bright smile froze when she saw it was me. She couldn't smile anymore. "Chloe. Who is it?" Vincent's voice came from the room. When he came out and saw it was me, he was stunned on the spot. "It's Amanda. Why? Why are you back?" I crossed my arms and looked at him. "This is my home. Can't I come back?" "No. Of course you can." I saw Vincent and Chloe exchange glances. I chuckled and said, "Sister Chloe. Why are you here?" As I spoke, I was about to carry my things back to the room. Too lazy to see them pretending here. But I didn't expect that there were a lot of things that pregnant women would use in the living room. Moreover, my bookshelf and my suitcase had all been moved out. My clothes were piled up randomly on the sofa. I suddenly remembered that in my previous life, Chloe had lived in my house. She said that the rent of the house she originally rented was expensive, and since she was pregnant, Vincent didn't feel at ease with her living alone. So he persuaded me to let her move into my room. Suddenly, a rush of anger welled up in my heart, and I said sternly, "What's going on here?" Vincent tried to touch my head. He used to do that often. And I thought he was doting on me. But now I just felt disgusted and avoided his hand. "Amanda. You don't know yet, do you? Your sister Chloe is pregnant. You know. She's a pregnant woman and can't take good care of herself. And since we're about to get married soon, you and I can share a room. And let your sister Chloe move into your room. Your room is bigger. And she'll be more comfortable there. This is a good omen. She's here to bring us a child." When Chloe heard the last sentence, her face turned a bit sour. And my hand started to tremble. I heard the exact same words again in this life. I just felt that he was treating me like a fool. The woman who was living in my house, occupying my room, and carrying my fiancé's child was right under my nose, lying to me together with that scumbag. They must have been laughing at me for being stupid when I wasn't around. Why should I? I sneered. The smile on Vincent's face faded. "What do you mean why?" I directly kicked over the bag they had moved here, which was filled with things for pregnant women. "This is the house my parents left me. And this is my room. Why should I give it to a stranger? How can she be a stranger?" "Amanda. You shouldn't talk like that." Chloe lowered her eyes and gave a sad smile. "Vincent. I'd better move out. This is my sister's room. It doesn't matter to me. She's young. And I should give in to her." She touched her belly and said, "My child and I depend on each other. It doesn't matter." She smiled bitterly at me and said, "I really envy you. Sister. You not only have a house but also a wonderful fiancé like Vincent by your side. If I had such a fiancé, I would wake up smiling in my dreams." Vincent's heart ached when he heard this. He turned his head and said sternly to me, "She's pregnant now. Isn't it right for us to take care of her? When did you become so heartless? Apologize to your sister Chloe immediately." I rolled my eyes. Too lazy to tolerate him for even a second. "I don't agree." When Vincent saw the sarcastic smile on my lips, his face darkened immediately. "Amanda. You've always been sensible and obedient," he said disappointedly. "You rarely rebelled these years. Why do you have to make things difficult for your Chloe this time? And end up hurting both yourself and others?" I looked up at him in surprise. "How am I hurting myself and others?" He said with a cold face. "Amanda. You know that I only like obedient and well-behaved women." "Obedient? Am I a dog that I have to be obedient? In my last life, I was so inferior and stalked for love that I was brainwashed and puaed by such a scumbag. And Vincent, who is 5 years older than me, knew very well how to manipulate me. He knew that my father died when I was young and my mother remarried. So I lacked a sense of security. So He took advantage of my dependence and trust in him, and used it against me. He was able to handle the situation between me and Chloe with ease, having 2 women and 2 homes. And each woman gave birth to a child for him. Bah! She's pregnant. And the child isn't mine. Whoever the father is should be responsible for it. What does it have to do with me? Moreover, her husband isn't in a hurry to take care of her. But you're so eager to do so. Could it be that this child has something to do with you? My words were a bit harsh, but I didn't bother to hold back. As expected, Vincent was like a rooster whose tail had been stepped on. He immediately became furious, and his face turned pale. In a fit of anger, he paced around in place and pointed at me. Amanda, do you know what you're saying? He looked at me and then at Chloe beside him, and said angrily, how can you say such things about me and your sister Chloe? If these words get out, what will happen to your sister Chloe's reputation? She got divorced from her ex-husband. Your sister Chloe is pitiful and has suffered a lot of grievances. Her husband doesn't care about her while she's pregnant. Amanda, you shouldn't be so malicious in your thoughts and make confounded remarks about others. After Chloe's family fell into decline, she married a playboy from their school a year ago. It was said that he was the son of the director of a machinery factory. But the good days didn't last long. She soon found out that the director's son was not only flirtatious but also addicted to gambling. He would beat people when he lost a bet. After Chloe caught him cheating, she immediately got a divorce and came to Guangzhou City to find Vincent, the poor young man who had regarded her as his first love and protected her. Vincent was the happiest when she got divorced. After learning about Chloe's experience, Vincent felt extremely sorry for her. On his birthday, I don't know what Chloe said to him. He pitied her and felt sorry for her. So he wanted to leave her with a child to accompany her. The 2 of them got together. He let out a deep sigh and said helplessly, you're young. So your sister Chloe and I will temporarily not pursue this matter. You apologize yourself. And then help move your sister Chloe's things in and tidy them up, so that your sister Chloe can rest. I crossed my arms, leaned against the door, and looked at him coldly. Chloe, having fulfilled my concession, with red eyes, tugged at Vincent's sleeve. Vincent, forget it. I shouldn't have come. My sister doesn't like me. And I don't want to make her unhappy. He patted the back of Chloe's hand. You're a pregnant woman, and she shouldn't make you unhappy. Vincent looked at me and said disappointedly, Amanda, can you just give your room to your sister Chloe? Okay? I said expressionlessly, no. Seeing that I still wouldn't give in, he said extremely impatiently, it's just a room. How long are you going to make a fuss about this? Why do you have to compete with a pregnant woman? Your parents are both gone. At that moment, the temperature in the room dropped sharply. It was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. I understood the meaning behind his blurted out words. My father was dead. And my mother didn't want me either. I was a poor little thing that no one wanted, and I could only rely on him and beg him to marry me so that he wouldn't abandon me. He was threatening me. In my previous life, I was really blind. I felt a bit like crying. For the lonely girl in my previous life who was bullied and had no choices. But he was wrong. I will have a better life without him in this life. Vincent realized that he had said the wrong thing. Amanda, I didn't mean that. He tried to touch my head, but I dodged. I waved my hand and said, she can move in. And she can have my room. You can take care of her however you want. 5 times the rent. Pay for 1 month and live for 1 month. I looked straight at Vincent. He might have felt guilty towards me for what he had said wrong just now. Or he really wanted to take care of Chloe during her pregnancy. In the end, he agreed and quickly gave me the money. Since Chloe came to Guangzhou City, I seem to have never seen Vincent's salary again. That scumbag wasn't worth it. But the money was something I could take. Because I needed it to buy goods. I'll sleep in your room. And you move out. You can sleep wherever you want. He was silent for a while and then sighed, okay. Just like that. Chloe moved in. Early in the morning, I got up and looked at the date on the calendar. July 15th. Today was the 3rd day from the end. I wrote down the shopping list in my notebook, then carried my bag and walked out of the room. I saw Vincent cooking breakfast in the kitchen. In my previous life, I had never seen Vincent cooking in the kitchen. Even when I was in confinement, he only cooked a few times. And then he went on a business trip. In the following years, he wouldn't even cook for me and the child. When I had a fever, I still had to get up and cook for the whole family. When he saw me, he said flatteringly, "Amanda, you're up. Have breakfast with your sister Chloe later." I ignored him. And he chased after me and asked, "Amanda, what's wrong with you recently? I feel like you changed." I didn't even give him a glance. Put on my shoes. And went out. Guangzhou City is a typical water town in the south of the Yangtze River. It is rich in silk and tea. So fabrics, silk, and embroidery will all be scarce goods after the future trade opens up. I came to buy a street in Guangzhou City. I visited several silk workshops. Now these are still small workshops. But in the future, several remarkable export silk companies will emerge on this street. They specialize in refined and customized handmade silk products. These products can't be bought in large factories. I purchased a bunch of real silk scarves, pillowcases, and handkerchiefs. I also took some newly styled and beautiful handmade embroideries, such as embroidered shoes, embroidered pillows, and embroidered quilts. In this season, the weather is hot there, and these things sell well in Guangzhou. There were quite a lot of things, mainly because I had money in my hand now. So I purchased more. I sent them to the post office and directly mailed them to Guangzhou. When I arrive in a couple of days, I can directly sell them at my aunt's stall. I was busy until the afternoon. Just as I came out of the post office, I didn't expect to see Vincent taking Chloe shopping in the state-owned store. In front of the counter, there was a huge crowd. I saw that Vincent was going to buy a gold chain for Chloe. Vincent indeed treated Chloe very well. In this era, a gold chain was a rare item. There was no woman who wouldn't want a gold chain. Chloe currently didn't have a job and was pregnant. So she simply stayed at home to take care of her pregnancy. When she saw others wearing gold chains, she asked Vincent, "Vincent, do you think I'll look good wearing it?" Vincent nodded gently, "You look good in anything." Chloe blushed shyly. There were a lot of people at the counter. Vincent considerately enclosed Chloe in his safety zone. The two of them tried on the gold chain and flirted with each other. "Hey, are you going to buy it or not? If not, move aside. Others are queuing up." Vincent quickly said, "Yes, I'll buy it." Chloe tugged at his sleeve and hesitated, "But it's too expensive." Vincent's gentle and doting gaze fell on her belly. And he smiled, "You're going to be a mother. Nothing is too expensive. In the future, you can even pass it on to the child." In my previous life, I also saw a gold necklace around Chloe's neck. She lived in my house. With a big belly. Vincent even asked me to take care of her during childbirth and confinement. But when I was pregnant and giving birth, she and Vincent said, "We want to live in a bigger place." So we moved out. Without me, the free nanny. She even asked Vincent to hire a nanny for her. She became more and more complacent. Although she didn't have a job, she wore an expensive gold necklace and the best clothes. She showed off in front of me. I was very upset and complained to Vincent. He said, "You should just be more lenient towards her. She has nothing left, but you have me." I endured it many times because of these words. When I was in the late stage of gastric cancer and lying in the hospital bed, Chloe leaned close to my ear and sneered, "Throughout your life, it seems that your husband is yours. The house is yours. And the child is yours. In fact, they're all mine. You're just a joke. But now, I don't care about all these things anymore. Because I will soon have a better life." After he paid the money and looked up, he saw me standing outside the store watching the scene. I turned around and left. He chased after me and grabbed my wrist. "Amanda, don't think too much. Today is Chloe's birthday. So I'm giving her a gift. I won't do it again in the future. Please don't be angry. Okay?" I looked up at him. And he had a flustered expression on his face. He wasn't afraid that I would be sad. But that I would be as persistent as yesterday and cause trouble on the street. Which would be bad for Chloe. I shook off his hand and said lightly, "Okay. He looked at me in surprise. Are you really not angry? I didn't answer him. I turned around and left. He wanted to catch up, but was held back by Chloe behind him. I was really busy these 2 days. I didn't spare any thought for Chloe and Vincent. Whatever those two did, whether they were going shopping or said they were going to the hospital, I didn't bother to care. While those two were not at home, I sent all the things that were too heavy for me to carry with me to the post office next door and directly mailed them to my aunt's house. I was busy until the evening before I almost finished. I calculated the time. I could leave tomorrow morning. But I didn't expect that something would go wrong at this time. Aunt Zhang, the neighbor, came knocking on the door, saying that something had happened to Vincent. I followed her while putting on my clothes and rushed to the police station. On the way, Aunt Zhang secretly asked me what the relationship between Vincent and Chloe was. They're classmates. Brother Vincent asked me to rent the house to sister Chloe. Oh, so they're really classmates. He's really too good to her. I didn't say anything and lowered my head, looking like I had been wronged. Brother Vincent said that we should take more care of sister Chloe. Now that she's pregnant, it's okay for me to suffer a little grievance. Aunt Zhang looked sympathetic and sighed, hurry up and go. Let's see what exactly happened. I rushed to the police station and found out that Vincent had gotten into a fight with several young hooligans. He fought against 3 or 4 hooligans alone. In the end, he was beaten up by them. The police were afraid that he would be disabled if they had found him a little later. When I saw him, he had already been simply bandaged. And his face was all blue and purple. Chloe beside him was crying, Vincent, are you okay? It must hurt a lot. As long as you're okay, Chloe. It's my fault for not protecting you well. No, you were very brave. You were like a hero standing in front of me. I felt a chill hearing this. The police officer told me that several young hooligans had stopped Chloe and tried to molest her. Then Vincent rushed over. The two groups started fighting. After both sides were educated, I signed the papers and took him home. Amanda, I'm sorry to trouble you today. Your sister Chloe is very innocent and sensitive. Now that she's pregnant, you know she needs someone to accompany her. So I've taken more care of her and haven't had time to take care of you these days. Don't worry. I'll submit the marriage report in a few days. After we get married, I'll be able to take good care of you. Okay. I answered firmly because I didn't want to listen to his lies anymore. It seems that there are fewer things in the house. I had mailed away all the important things, given away the unimportant things, and sold the valuable things second-hand. Naturally, the house was much emptier. My room was even emptier. But I couldn't let him know, in case I couldn't leave tomorrow. I thought that since there was one more person, the house was too crowded, so I threw away the things we didn't need. It's good that you threw them away. After we get married, we can buy some new furniture. In my previous life, after we got married, I didn't see any new furniture. He sent the refrigerator and the television to Chloe. He said, you know, Chloe is used to a comfortable life, and we should always give in to her a bit. I really don't know how I endured it in my previous life. Now, I don't want to endure it for even a second. I also forced a smile. Okay. Seeing me smile at him, Vincent was very happy. Amanda, you haven't smiled at me for a long time these days. You should smile more in the future. You're going to be a bride soon. It seemed that he thought of something, his eyes flickering, and he said guiltily, Amanda, I'll treat you well after we get married. Okay. I believe you. I believe you? You scumbag. Stay away from me. That night, I went back to my room, locked the door, and just waited for the departure the next day. It was the last night of the countdown. I had a good sleep that night. On July 15th, I woke up early. I packed my things in the room. I was thinking that later I would leave while Chloe and Vincent were going to the hospital for medical treatment. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. I went out and opened the door. Several leaders from Vincent's school, the secretary of the factory area, and a colleague from the police station had all come. As soon as they entered the door, they asked, Amanda, is Vincent here? I nodded. He's in the bathroom. Is there a woman named Chloe living in your house? And is she also pregnant? I nodded vigorously. The leader of Vincent's school sighed. Amanda. Who's here? Vincent opened the bathroom door and was stunned when he saw such a group of people. Chloe's door opened and then quickly closed. One of the female teachers asked me, Amanda, do you know what the relationship between the two of them is? I pretended to look nervous and shook my head in confusion. Brother Vincent said they were college classmates. Forget it. Let's take them back first. Vincent, you've ruined your own future. His old leader said with a look of disappointment and left first. Vincent's hair was messy, and he hadn't reacted yet. The colleague from the Public Security Bureau said, Comrade Vincent, someone reported that you have an improper relationship with a woman. Moreover, the fight yesterday hasn't been settled yet. A guy with dyed yellow hair ended up in the hospital today. So please come with us together with that Ms. Xiao. What? Comrade, have insulted Wails. What do you mean? I looked at Vincent in shock. My eyes instantly turned red. Brother Vincent, how could you betray me and do such a thing behind my back? After saying that, I rushed into the room crying and closed the door. Amanda. They made a mistake. Wait for me to explain to you. Amanda. Soon, what out a low sigh. Vincent and Chloe were taken away for investigation. I came out, tidied up the house, and several familiar neighbors came to comfort me. I said goodbye to them one by one. I gave some things that I couldn't take away to the neighbors. Then, let out a low sigh. I took the bus and headed to the train station. At 8:30, I boarded the train to Guangzhou. After I arrived in Guangzhou, I rented a new house close to the World Trade Center. In a few years, this location would become the busiest area. I also rented my own stall and started my business. Gradually, the business was on track. Since I couldn't handle everything alone, I even hired employees. On September 1st, school officially started. I attended classes to study business theories while running my individual business. 10 years later, I had already established a firm foothold in Guangzhou. I had my own house, car, and company. Because I seized the opportunity, I bought a building in Guangzhou as the address of my company. 3 years ago, I married my university junior. He's a 1.85-meter tall young and energetic guy. And now we have a lovely daughter. When I got home at night, looking at my daughter, my husband, and the warm bed, and the brightly lit street scene outside the window, I thought to myself that this was truly the best of times. During the day, I called my former teacher and talked about Vincent's current situation. I couldn't help but sigh. Back then, he was reported for having an improper relationship with a woman and lost his job at the school. He could only set up a street stall and do part-time jobs to make money. After he was investigated and came home, he found that I had already left and the house was empty. The house was taken over by the buyer 2 months later. He was driven out, rented a house, and learned to set up a street stall. That was exactly what I did in my previous life. But he was too proud to put aside his pride. So, he never made much money. Chloe had a child, and the two of them finally got married. In my previous life, Chloe also wanted to enter the school. Later, she squeezed out my spot and got in by relying on Vincent's connections at the school. But this time, Vincent lost his job himself and couldn't pull any strings. The two of them could only rely on Vincent's street stall to make money. The teacher said that it was actually Chloe's ex-husband, Lu Liang, who reported Vincent back then. And those hooligans with dyed yellow hair who caused trouble were also sent by her ex-husband to create obstacles. After getting married, Vincent quarreled with Chloe every day. Somehow, Chloe started to despise Vincent for not being able to make money. And then she got back together with her ex-husband. Once, Vincent caught them. The two men had a fierce fight. Lu Yang was a ruthless person and used all kinds of vicious moves. In the end, he broke one of Vincent's legs. Chloe divorced Vincent and took their daughter with her. She couldn't live with a disabled person, especially a poor and down and out one. Now, he drinks alcohol every day, has no job, and when he's drunk, he lies on the ground shouting, Amanda, Amanda, come back. I was wrong. he cried and said to the passersby. The girl with 2 braids who used to cook at home waiting for him. He has lost her forever. Thinking of this, I felt a chill all over my body again. I picked up a business book at hand and started reading. I looked up and saw my 1.85-meter tall husband coming in wrapped in a bath towel, showing his abdominal muscles, and wiping his hair with one hand. I remained calm and lowered my head to continue reading the book issued by the business school. I firmly believe that one should never give up learning at any age. Even though I'm now a wealthy woman and an entrepreneur, I should keep up with the times even more. I want to seize this era and live my life to the fullest. My husband has always been very supportive of me and doesn't disturb me. But today was a bit strange. He quietly came to my bedside and started doing push-ups and lifting dumbbells. Those abdominal muscles. That line. That skin color. I swallowed and felt my throat was a bit dry. Sigh. The charm of men can be distracting. It seems I can only continue studying tomorrow. The end.